The Norse King's Bridal. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Christine Rucker. The Norse King's Bridal by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. The Waking of Angantheow. From the Old Norse. The Waking of Angantheow. Note: Swafarlami, a king of the seed of Odin, stole the sword Tyrfing Ripper from the dwarfs who forged it. They laid on it a curse, that it should bring death to its bearer, that no wound made by it should be healed, and that 3 deeds of woe should be wrought by it. Swafarlami is slain by Arngrim, who inherits the sword. Eyfura, his wife, has 12 sons, all of whom become Vikings. Angantheow, the eldest, and his brothers are eventually all slain near Uppsala by Hjalmar and his brother Eroad, but Hjalmar, being wounded by Tyrfing, has only time to sing his death song before he dies. Angantheow's daughter, Herwor, by his wife Tofa, is brought up as a bondmaid, in ignorance of her parentage. When at last she learns it, the war fury comes upon her. She arms herself as an Amazon and goes to Munarvo in Samsey in quest of the dwarf-doomed weapon. The following poem concerns her dialogue with her dead father, his yielding up to her of Tyrfing, and the prophecy of the further doom its possession will bring upon her race. The maid at eve in Munarvo saw the herdsman homeward go. Shepherd, who walketh alone so late I the isle, go seek thee shelter and sleep a while. Herwor, I seek not shelter to sleep a while, for I know not dwellers in the isle. Tell me thou what fain I'd know, where is the mound called Hereward's Hoe? Shepherd, mad thou art that askest thus, and thy plight is piteous. Fly we to shelter far and fast, the world without is grim and ghast. Herwor, I'll give thee a neck ring of gold so red, not thus is the friend of heroes stead. Shepherd, no ring that's wrought of the gold so gay, no goodly guerdon my feet shall stay. Him I hold but a witless wight, that will walk alone in the grisly night. Fires are flitting and grave mounds gape, burns field and fen seek we to scape. Herwor, nay, for their fretting no fright I know, though all the isle went up in a low. Nay, it behooves not to fear or flee, though ghosts arise, talk thou with me. Far to the forest he fled, afraid to hold discourse with the hardy maid. But higher strung for her dauntless quest, Herwor's heart swelled in her breast. Herwor, Angantheow, wake, the voice is mine, Tofa's only child and thine. Give to me the sword of flame, forged by dwarfs for Swafarlam. Angantheow, Herward, Hjorward ran. Waken each step and every man. Waken, waken from your sleep, mid the tree roots where ye keep blood-stained spear and sword and shield, all the weapons warriors wield. Surely seed of Arngrim bold, dust ye are and mounds of mold. Speechless if ye let me go, I for sons in Munarvo. Angantheow, Herward, Hireward ran, be it in your rib bones span, as of ants a stinging horde, if ye give me not the sword. Ghosts no gear should have in ward. Angantheow, Herward, daughter, wherefore thus callest curses down on us? Mad thou art, distracted maid, wilful waking thus the dead. Surely thou art no mortal wight, that comest thus to the How at night, with helm and spear and bright breastplate, or the Goths to the grave mound's gate. Herwor, men call me immortal till thus I yode, to seek thee out in thine abode. Give me what the dwarfs have wrought, hiding it avails thee not. Angantheow. Never hand of sire nor kin laid me here the how within, but the foemen too that I did not slay, Tyrfing one of them bears today. Her war. See now that the truth thou tell, may the grisly fiends of hell tear thee piecemeal from thy grave, if thou hast not there the glaive. Slow thou art, I tell thee true, to give thine only child her due. Angantheow. Hell gate is opening, the graves gape wide, the isle is flaming on every side, all is ghastly and grim to see. Back to thy ships, maid, turn and flee. Her war. Never a bale that burns by night shall put me with its flame to flight. Never thy daughter's heart shall shrink, though a ghost should stand at the grave mound's brink. I bind ye all with a magic doom, to lie and rot within the tomb. Hjalmar's bane, from out the how, the sharp mail scather give me now. Angantheow. Under my shoulders lies Hjalmar's bane, fenced with a fire that will not wane. No maiden I ken of earthly mold will dare such a blade in her hand to hold. Her war. May I have the shining blade, I will hold it unafraid. It scares me not, it sinks and dies, the burning flame before mine eyes. Angantheow. Her war the brave art mad to go, open-eyed into the low. Rather with the sword shall hie thee, nothing, maid, can I deny thee. He gives her the sword out of his grave. Her war. Son of Vikings, will dost thou, to give me the sword from out the how? Better to me the boon, I say, than were I to conquer all Norway. Angantheow. Little daughter, dost thou know wherefore thou rejoicest so? Fond thou speakest words of woe. Thou shalt bear a son at length, who will trust in Tyrfing's strength. Hedric, thus his name shall run, richer than all beneath the sun. Her war. I must fare to my steeds of the sea, gay and glad is my heart in me. Son of a king, I reck not at all how my children hereafter strive and brawl. Angantheow. Long shalt thou hold and enjoy thy gain, but keep in the scabbard Hjalmar's bane. Touch not the edges with venom dight, worse than a plague to living wight. Daughter, farewell the power and pith, fain would I endure thee with. Of us 12 men the life and breath, the sons of Arngrim lost in death. Her war. All is accomplished, I must not stay. Hail ye in the how, I will away. Twixt life and death methought I found me, when the flaming fire was all around me. End of Ballad.
The Lay of Thrym by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Carrie Adams, your book voice. When Thor awoke, his wrath was grim to find his hammer gone from him. He shook his beard, he tossed his hair, the son of earth sought here and there. And first of all he spake this word: Listen, Loki, never was heard in earth or heaven what now I say. The Thunderer's hammer is stolen away. To Freya the fair their way they take, and this is the word that first he spake: Lend me thy feather fell, I pray, to seek my hammer that's stolen away. Were it of silver or were it of gold, that would I give, that shouldst thou hold. Loki, he flew in the rustling fell, out of the halls where the Aesir dwell. To Jotunheim, on a house at Thrym, king o' the giants, a twisting Thrym, golden bands for his hounds of speed, and smoothing the mane of his trusty steed. And this is the word that first he said, What of the Aesir? What of the elves? Why art thou come to the giant's door? 'Tis ill with the Aesir, ill with the elves. Say, hast thou hidden the hammer of Thor? Yea, I have hidden the hammer of thunder, 8 full fathoms the earth down under. No man shall win it in all his life, until he shall bring me Freya to wife. Loki he flew in the wrestling fell, out of the halls where the giants dwell, until he came to Asgard's bound, and Thor in the midmost garth he found. And this is the word that first he said, What tidings toiling hast thou won? For a man that sits tells a stumbling tale, and a man that lies a lying one. News for my toiling do I bring. Thrym has thine hammer, the giant's king. No man may win it in all his life, until he take him Freya to wife. To Freya the fair their way they take, and this is the word that first he spake. Bind on thy bridal veil amain, for to Jotunheim we must fare, we twain. Wroth was Freya, she caught her breath, the hall of the Aesir shook beneath, the bracing necklace snapped in 3. Marriage mad is the name for me, if to Jotunheim I fare with thee. All the Aesir to council went, the mighty ones to parliament, gods and goddesses all in wonder, how to win back the hammer of thunder. It was Heimdall spake amain, whitest of gods the wily Wain. Now bind on Thor the veil so fair, the bracing necklace let him wear. Hang round him many a clinking key, let woman's weeds fall to his knee. Jewels broad on his breast shall shine, and neatly shall ye the topknot twine. Up spake he mightiest at need, Call me a coward's name indeed, if ever I wear a woman's weed. Up spake Loki, Laufey's son, Thor, with thy witless words have done. Soon shall the giants in Asgard reign, unless thou win thine hammer again. On Thor they bound the veil so fair, the bracing necklace did he wear. They hung him with many a clinking key, let women's weeds fall to his knee. Jewels broad on his breast did shine, and neatly did they the topknot twine. Then Loki, son of Laufey, said, I will go with thee as waiting maid. The goats they harness by 2 and by 1, to the shafts they are shackled, well can they run. Valley and hill burst into flame, when Odin's son to the giants came. The king o' the giants did loudly call, Up now, giants, through the benches all, see where the bride they bring adown, daughter of Niford from Noah town. Kine go here with gilded horn, oxen black my garth adorn. Gold have I and goods galore, for Freya alone I long so sore. Evening fell on the blithe bridal, the giants sat a drinking ale. The greedy spouse of Sif he ate 7 salmon every cate, for the lady's bread and a goodly steer, and he drank 3 tunes, his heart to cheer. The king of the giants he up and cried, Never was known such a hungry bride, ne'er saw I lady so full of greed, nor maiden drink so deep of mead. Sitting apart, the wily maid answered what the giant said. This seen night past no meat had she, so fain she was to come to thee. He lifted the veil to kiss the bride, and the hall's full length he sprang aside. Why are her eyes so full of ire? Methinks they are darting sparks of fire. Sitting apart, the wily maid answered what the giant said. This night past no sleep had she, so fain she was to come to thee. The giant's sister entered in, greedy a bridal gift to win. Give me thy ring of red gold, if thou my love wouldst have and hold. The king o' the giants he up and cried, Bear in the hammer to hallow the bride. To the maiden's knees now me only bring, and var shall hallow our handfasting. Deep in his breast left the heart of Thor, when his hammer he held once more. He slew the king o' giants Thrym, and all his race smote after him. He smote the giant's sister old, she who begged a gift of gold. For pence a pound was what she won, and a hammer blown for a gay guerdon. Thus back to his hammer came Odin's son. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
The Norse King's Bridal by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Sofia Andersson. From the Danish, The Norse King's Bridal. Glad was her Kall in the winter, all up in the northern land. Unto the King of Norway he's given his daughter's hand. Woe was her heart in the winter. All for the King of Norway they spread the bridal feast, but it was young Sir Björn the maiden loved the best. Up spake the King of Norway before the blithe Bridal. Why weeps she, haughty Hildelill? Why is her cheek so pale? He spake the King of Norway unto his pages 3. Now bid him come, the young Sir Björn, and speak a word to me. In came he, young Sir Björn, and stood before the board. What wilt thou, King of Norway, that thou hast sent me word? Now hearken, young Sir Björn, thou knight so fair and fine. Say, wilt thou be my seneschal, and pour my bridal wine? Ja, fain will I be seneschal, all at thy bridal fair, if I may pour the red wine before the bride to bear. Sir Björn poured the mead so brown, and poured the red wine. The bride she sat full sorrowful, and wept for jewel and pine. It was the young Sir Björn that leaned across the board, and whispered to that weeping bride full many a wooing word. Dost mind now, haughty Hildelill, what passed between us both, when sitting in thy maiden's bower thou plightedst me thy troth? The bride she sat so sorrowful, and ne'er a word she said, but her fair face grew white and wan, that as a rose was red. Up spake the King of Norway, in purple wrapped and fair. What sayest thou, O young Sir Björn, unto my bride so fair? Away, thou young Sir Björn, let be thy cozening tale. Her face that as a rose was red is now grown wan and pale. There sittest thou, King of Norway, a drinking red wine. The lady that thou lovest was first true love o' mine. And if the lady that I love has plighted troth to thee, then never will I bear her home to Norway with me. Now tell me on thy faith and troth what I shall ask, my bride. Wilt reign a queen in Norway, or a dame in Denmark bide? Liefer I'd bide a simple dame, a good knight's name to bear, than go with thee to Norway, a queenly crown to wear. It was the King of Norway smote hand upon the board. Ne'er have I known a knight's daughter that e'er spake such a word. It was the King of Norway that laughed and made right merry. And dost thou love him more than me? With him I trow shalt tarry. They rode away, the king his men, so sadly over the land, all but the young Sir Björn, that won the maiden's hand. They rode away, the king his men, so sadly over the ice, all but the young Sir Björn, for he has won the prize. Woe was her heart in the winter. End of a ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
The Gipsy's Bride by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Richa. There lived a gentle maiden all by the water van. She was the fairest maiden that ever the sun shone on. Oh, oh, ha! All by the water van. She was the fairest maiden that ever the sun shone on. To her there came a wooing 5 princes, fair and tall. Yet they were not so beauteous, but she denied them all. To her there came a wooing 5 counts, so fair and tall. Yet they were not so beauteous, but she denied them all. To her there came a wooing 5 franklins, fair and tall. Yet they were not so beauteous, but she denied them all. There came a cunning gipsy, a roaming to the town. They gave him gold and guerdon to bring her pride adown. Now lend to me a saddle, a mantle, and a beast, and I'll ride a wooing as proud as any priest. He rode, the cunning gipsy, unto the castle fair. There she stood, the maiden, a combing of her hair. Good morrow, my lady, so fair and so fine. Say, wilt thou come to be true love o' mine? Away with thee, thou gipsy, I scorn thy words so free. Counts and mighty princes have come a wooing me. Good sooth, I am no gipsy, though thou biddest me begone. I am the proudest king's son that ever the sun shone on. I have goodly acres, and fields so fair and broad. I have serving maidens who shall spread thy board. I have a goodly garden of herbs a growing green, where thou, my love, shalt wander out and in. I have 3 dappled palfreys a tossing of their crest, that thou and I, my sweetheart, may ride among the best. When the wedding now was over, and all the feasting done, then asked the lovely maiden his lands to look upon. Where are thy goodly acres, and where thy lands so broad? And where are all thy serving maids, for us shall spread the board? I have no goodly acres, I have no lands so broad, and never have I eaten at an honest man his board. I have no goodly garden of herbs a growing green, through all men's courts I wander out and in. I have no dappled palfreys a tossing of their crest, but only my long hunting knife, of all my goods the best. And she may laugh, the lady, or she may weep for woe, but the gipsy she must follow wherever he may go. The lady must turn up her silken sleeves so gay, and help that cunning gipsy the slaughtered beasts to flay. Now must she quit her kirtle, and her silken sark so fair, for silken sark and kirtle she never more shall wear. Oh, oh, ha! Her silken sark so fair, for silken sark and kirtle she never more shall wear. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
Hagen at the Dance by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. The king sits up in Rebay, drinking red wine. He sent to all his Danish knights of noble line. So daintily danced he Hagen. Stand up now, all my mine, and knights so bold, tread ye for me a merry dance, all on the windy wold. Listed him there to dance, the Danish king, with them went haughty Hagen, the round to sing. The queen awoke from slumber, and laughed so low, which one of all my maiden strikes the harp so? Nay, none of thy merry maidens strikes the harp strings, that is haughty Hagen, so sweet that sings. Stand up now, all my ladies, wreathe the red rose, we will fare forth to see how the dance goes. Forth rode the Queen of Danes in scarlet clad, with her went many a dainty dame and damsel glad. With her shins rode the Queen around the wold, there saw she haughty Hagen, that knight so bold. It was haughty Hagen spake up so free, listest thee now, my gracious dame, to dance with me? Up stands he, haughty Hagen, all with the Queen to dance. Good sooth, they there made merry, with gay pastance. Up and spoke the little maid, in kirtle blue, Beware, beware, for traitors' eyes, watch all ye do. I heed them not, those traitors, God grant them dule and pine. Would God that haughty Hagen might e'er be mine. Dearer to me is Hagen, in tunic old, than e'er is he, the King of Danes, in crown of gold. Dearer to me is Hagen, poor and alone, than e'er is he, the King of Danes, upon his throne. It was the King of Danes did speak and say, what listeth thus the Queen to dance and play? Better to sit in the lady's bower, with harp of gold, than thus to stand by Hagen's side on the green wold. Up spake the little maid, in kirtle red, hast heard, my gracious dame, what the king said? So newly have I here begun the merry dance to trace, the king right well may tarry a little space. Up and spake the little lad in purple weed, the King of Danes is riding home, take heed, take heed. Shame fall on haughty Hagen and all his lore, the Queen sits in the lady's bower, and sighs so sore. So daintily danced he Hagen. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
The Lowly Squire by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. 7 long years as a lowly squire I served mine own liege lord, but of his daughter fair to see they told me never a word, and is she glad, then I rejoice. Ne'er did I hear a word of her, nor see the lovely lass, till Easter day in the morning when she should go to Mass. Thus it went from Easter all unto Whitsuntide. The maiden donned her fairest weed unto the kirk to ride. The maiden donned her fairest weed unto the kirk to ride. I set my saddle on my steed, and went at the maiden's side. There, as I rode by the maiden's side, like red gold shone her hair, and every man right well might mark, my heart was full of care. We rode across the lealand to the good greenwood amain, and never did my hand loose hold of the maiden's bridle rein. Hold off, thou fair young squire, and do not ride so near. Well can I see thy foolish heart doth hold me all too dear. I may not eat, I may not drink, I dwell in dule and pine, and all the night and every night I dream that thou art mine. Good sooth, I am but a poor young squire, God make me rich and great, God give me land as I have loved to be thy worthy mate. Now dress thee in thy fairest weed, speak not to living wight, for I will pray my father dear, and he will dub thee knight. Then come into the lady's bower, and stand thou not too near, that never a living wight may know how thou dost hold me dear. I went into the lady's bower, right sore afraid was I. I looked not at my own true love, lest the serving maid should spy. She smiled, the lovely lady, beneath her veil so thin. Now who is he, the stranger squire, that comes so boldly in? Now thanks be to the kindly count, so leal a lord was he. He gave away his daughter dear, my beauteous bride to be. And is she glad, then I rejoice. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
The Drowning of John Remorsson by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. The good ship lies on the lealand, and under her grows the grass. O never so rash a steersman as Sonja Remorsson was, for the sea she taketh so many. The king sits up in Ribe, and a letter writeth he. He bids his gallant captains make ready for the sea. It was Sir John Remorsson put on his armour bright, the faithless manless to his king, that will not sail tonight. It was Sir John Remorsson that girt him with his sword. The man who will not sail today is faithless to his lord. Tonight will we make merry, and drink the foaming ale, and if the favouring weather hold, tomorrow we'll set sail. It was Skipper Hagen looked to the sky amain. He that will sail the sea today will never come home again. It was Sir John Remorsson to the haven cried aloud, Up with your sails, ye Danish men, in the great name of God. They had not sailed from a land a league, the waves they ran so high. All sad sat Skipper Hagen with a salt tear in his eye. They had not sailed from a land a league, the waves they ran so deep. All sad sat Skipper Hagen, and sorely did he weep. Where is the doughty champion, yestereen that talked so gay? Let him now take the helm in hand, for the anchor is reft away. Where is the doughty champion that talked so loud last even? Let him now take the helm in hand, for the sail is rent and riven. Now we will cast the lots around, and by heaven's word, is there a man of evil life, we will heave him overboard. And straight they cast the lots around, to see who worked them woe. And the lot has fallen on good Sir John, all overboard to go. So far from land are we, with never a priest anear, but I will make my shrift aloud, and trust that God will hear. It was Sir John Remorsson fell on his bended knee, and there he made his shrift aloud, before the mainmast tree. Full many a wife have I beguiled, and maidens bright of lee, but never, good sooth, I thought, that I should die by sea. Many a maiden have I beguiled, and many a loving wife, but never, good sooth, I thought, that the sea would have my life. The merciful Christ in heaven above, I pray to pity me, for well I wot my sinful soul, and heavy weird must dree. If ever a one of you comes to land, and meets my love of yore, tell her to wed whenever she may, she will see my face no more. If ever a one of you comes to land, and meets my mother dear, tell her I dwell in the king's court, in mirth and goodly cheer. 77 there they sailed, over the billows blue, and only 5 came home, of those liegemen tall and true. Now we will up to the goodly kirk, high God his grace to pray, all for the soul of good Sir John, for his course is cast away. All out by Borenholm, the tides they run amain, and there floats many a goodly course. will never come home again, for the sea she taketh so many.
Sir Dalebo's Vengeance by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Carrie Adams, your book voice. Sir Dalebo built him a ship so great, the king himself had not its mate. They knew not Sir Dalebo Johnson. The king from his window was looking forth so free. Whose is the gallant ship a-sailing in the sea? Now that is Sir Dalebo Johnson's. Up spake the king to his captains bold, Bind him, Sir Dalebo, have him unhold. Bind him, Sir Dalebo Johnson. Up sprang the captains on their steeds of dapple grey, and forth they galloped faster than a bird can fly away, for they knew not Dalebo Johnson. Now they are come to his castle fair and great, and there stood his mother a-tarrying by the gate. Show us Sir Dalebo Johnson. I cannot show you Dalebo, I know not where he be, for 'tis 7 years and more he rode away from me. I can show him not Dalebo Johnson. The captain pulled off his cap of blue, 1,000 gold pieces he told so true. Now show us Sir Dalebo Johnson. To the east o' the court, in the bower above, Sir Dalebo talks with his own true love. Ye can find him there, Dalebo Johnson. They knocked at the door with shield and with spear. Up sprang Sir Dalebo. Whom have we here? Who are these? Said Dalebo Johnson. He put on his armor all shining and bright. Little Kirsten, she clasped it, the best that she might. Clasp it hard, said Dalebo Johnson. Sir Dalebo out of the window sprang, his gold-hilted sword at his girdle rang. I come, said Dalebo Johnson. He struck down one, he struck down two. 'Tis thus the goodly game should go. Doth it like ye? Said Dalebo Johnson. He struck down 3, he struck down 4. The game goes better than of yore. What think ye? Said Dalebo Johnson. Sir Dalebo he mounted his steed of dapple grey, and forth he galloped faster than a bird can fly away. Tread softly, said Dalebo Johnson. Sir Dalebo has come to his castle fair and great. There stood his mother a-tarrying by the gate. Good morrow, said Dalebo Johnson. Hearken, dear mother, to what I ask of thee. What didst thou with the money my foeman paid for me? I ask it, Sir Dalebo Johnson. Ah, Dalebo, and wilt thou work me woe? Never for all the world would I sell thee to thy foe. I sold thee not, Dalebo Johnson. He drew his shining sword and struck her where she stood, and all so small he hewed her, as the beech leaves in the wood. Lie thou there, said Dalebo Johnson. Sir Dalebo he mounted his steed of dapple grey, and forth he galloped faster than a bird that flies away, for wroth was Sir Dalebo Johnson. Sir Dalebo has ridden to the castle fair and great. There stood the King o' Danes a-tarrying by the gate. Good greeting, said Dalebo Johnson. Hearken now, Sir Dalebo, and look thou tell to me, where are they, my champions, I sent of late to thee? Tell me that, Sir Dalebo Johnson. Oh, some of them are sick, and some of them are sore, and some are lying still to rise again no more, that thou sentest to Dalebo Johnson. Go then, get thy salt, bid thy scullions ready be, if thou wilt salt the flesh that I have carved for thee. I rede thee, Sir Dalebo Johnson. I pray thee, dear Sir Dalebo, now sheathe thy shining brand, for freely will I give thee mine only daughter's hand. I pray thee, Sir Dalebo Johnson. What reck I of your wenches, or your serving maid so gay? I have my own true sweetheart, that's fairer far than they. I say it, Dalebo Johnson. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
The Luck of the Linden-Tree by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. Of two true lovers this tale I tell, that loved each other long and well. We tread the dance so featly. Their love it nourished as fair and free as the branch grows green on the linden-tree. The knight to other lands must roam, the lady she must bide at home. I'll plant a linden by thy bower, leaves that beareth and many a flower. And when the linden sheds its leaves, then shalt thou know thy true love grieves. And when the tree its flowers hath shed, then shalt thou know thy love is dead. When night was done and dawn was grey, the lady looked upon the brae. God bless the tree, so green it grows, well fares my love where'er he goes. That heard the wily serving maid, those lovers true hath she betrayed. The serving maid she up and spake, I'll spill your loves ere dawn shall break. The serving maid so false was she tore the leaves from the linden-tree. When night was done and dawn was grey, the lady looked upon the brae. The linden-tree hath shed its leaves, full well I wot my true love grieves. The linden-tree its flowers hath shed, I wot full well my love is dead. And is he dead, my heart's desire, my bower and all I'll burn with fire. She laid a brand her bower unto, she choked herself with the bolster blue. When all the bower in a bale did stand, her love came a-sailing back to land. When all the bower was ashes and dust, her love put in to the self-same coast. Unto his page he spake, the knight, whose bower is that burns so bright? If my true love is dead, I say, God wot I'll die the self-same day. Against a stone he set his hilt, and there his heart's blood hath he spilt. We tread the dance so featly. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
Agnes and the Merman by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Lawley. Agnes and the Merman. Agnes she walked on the cliffs so steep, up came a merman out of the deep. Ha ha ha! Up came a merman out of the deep. Hearken now, Agnes, so fair and so fine, say, wilt thou come to be true love of mine? Yes, good sooth, that will I be, but how can I dwell in the depths of the sea? He has stopped her ears, and stopped her mouth as well, so he bore her down all in the sea to dwell. She dwelt with the Merman 8 years and more. 7 fair sons to him she bore. Agnes she sat by the cradle and sang, and she heard how the bells of England rang. Unto the Merman she then did say, May I go up to the kirk to pray? Yes, thou shalt go and pray withal, but see thou come back to thy children small. When thou hast entered the kirkyard fair, then shalt thou not let down thy shining golden hair. And when thou hast entered the door so wide, then sit not down by thy mother's side. When the priest names the name of dread, thou shalt not bow thy head. He has stopped her ears and stopped her mouth amain, so he bore her up to the English strand again. When she came down to the kirkyard fair, then she let down her shining golden hair. And when she entered the door so wide, she sat her down by her mother's side. When she heard the name of dread, then she bowed down her head. Hearken now, Agnes, to what I ask of thee. Where hast thou been 8 years away from me? I dwelt in the sea 8 years and more. 7 sons so fair I to the Merman bore. Tell me, dear daughter, and fear no blame, what did he give for the maiden fame? He gave me a ring of golden sheen, never a better one hath the queen. Of golden shoon he gave me a pair, never a better the queen may wear. He gave me a harp of gold so gay, that I might play upon, to drive my cares away. The Merman he made him a path so straight, up from the strand to the kirkyard gate. Into the kirk he went that self same day, and all the holy images, they turned their heads away. Like the red gold was his shining hair, his eyes were full of sorrow and care. Hearken now, Agnes, hearken unto me. All thy little children are longing after thee. Let them long as they will, yea, let them long so sore, I shall return to them nevermore. Think of the big ones, and think of the small. Of the baby in the cradle, think thou most of all. I think not of the big ones, I think not of the small. Of the baby in the cradle, I think no more at all. Ha ha ha! Of the baby in the cradle, I think no more at all. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
Moore's Yanua Vitæ by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. It was the outworn clay that slept in endless peace. It was the dead man's sprite, all in the wan moonlight, an hour before the day, that mourned and might not cease. O body of mine, deep, deep and soft thy rest. Thy burning now is cold, in kindly churchyard and mould, that waits thy wearied eyne, and thine untroubled breast. But I must wander and wail, must bear in wrath and rue the burning of quenchless fire, the frustrate deep desire for heights I did not scale, for deeds I did not do. O warm life left behind, O hearts that held me dear, in my remembered place dwells healing and solace among the kinsmen kind who decked my sepulchre. He sought his father's castle, But lo, in bower and hall, the time was come for mirth, no place by that glad hearth, mid song and feast and wassail, for care funereal. Where hushed is earthly din, and dreams may come and go, where day is drowned deep all under the wings of sleep, there will I enter in, and there will tell my woe. He mixed with the drifting dance of dreams that went and came, but by the sleeper's head an angel watched the bed. His pure and piercing glance was like a sword of flame. Hence thou, overbold, wouldest do the deed forbid, unmeet that flesh that should hear thy tale of woe and fear, unmeet that flesh should see what God with a veil hath hid. O eyes that have grown blind, O hearts that have forgot, of human love bereft, one hope to me is left. The beast's dumb soul is kind, faithful, forsaking not. But the petted palfrey neighed in fear, with starting eye that searched the shades around, and shrank the faithful hound, bristling, sore afraid, when he felt the dead draw nigh. Then the spirit turned and fled, wailing along the blast. Torn, torn from life's warm breast, in death I find no rest. Where hide my shameful head? What refuge find at last? Around and about and abroad he went, while the stars grew dim, till 'neath a sombre pine he saw a wayside shrine, and heard how Christ the Lord spake from the rood to him. Yea, once and yet again spake that small voice and still, I bear thy sins for thee. Canst thou not wait with me the slow wrought fruit of pain, the long redress of ill? It was the outworn clay that slept beneath the sod, it was the dead man's sprite, while all the east grew white in the wide dawn of day, that waited, praising God. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
Ballad of the Turning Tide by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Sofia Andersson. Ballad of the Turning Tide. The mermaid sat in Sundal Sound, combing her lint-white locks. She saw the ships sail in and out among the rugged rocks. The mermaid sat in Sundal Sound, combing her locks so wet. I've laid my love on a mortal man, and I will have him yet. It was the maiden Æthelgif, walked in the blowing meads, and she marked how the tide came in from sea, and whispered among the reeds. The tide so free came in from sea, and filled the banks to the brim, and up sailed Ragnar the rover bold, and his merry men with him. Ragnar the rover leapt to land, before the maiden pale. She saw the stars in his haughty helm, the low moon in his mail. So Ragnar stared on Æthelgif, and uttered never a sound, but in the song of the nightingale his secret thoughts she found. And all the tale he might not tell, the lore of the north and the south, was in the look of his eyes and the kiss that he pressed on her trembling mouth. Up and spake the mermaiden, beneath the keel did swim. Would Ragnar woo a mortal maid, the worther woo for him? The mermaid fell, she spoke a spell, and said a secret rune, or ever he wist, and the maid he kissed grew faded and faint eftsoon. As the wavering mist, or ever he wist, all under the mighty charm, and like a wraith of wind and breath, she vanished from out his arm. It was the mermaid, fair and fell, that sang by the good ship's side, Ho, ho, for the kiss of the salt sea spray, and the toss of the turning tide. Alone in the mead the maiden stood, like one in a waking dream. She saw the sail wind in and out along the level stream, like one marsh fire where the shields that shone afar in the faint moonbeam. Oh, the gulls fly out with the turning tide and cry across the land, each to each in an alien speech that I fain would understand. When days were done and years came on, her sire did speak and say, "Let bells be rung and mass be sung for a blithesome bridal day." Oh, sweeter to me the wind from sea that whispers among the reeds than the wooing words of a bridegroom blithe or the tramp of the festal steeds. Up and spake the groom so gay, "Come pour the red wine. Play up, ye minstrel men, to cheer this bride o' mine. For the evening star like a bridal lamp over the tower doth stand, while thin and pale as a wedding veil the mist steals o'er the land." She let the golden cup fall down, and stared as she were wood. "Oh, is it wine ye pour for me, or a beaker of red blood? Like a dirge for the dead is the music glad, that the minstrels play so loud, and the mist that's pale as a bridal veil is white as a waiting shroud." Up and spake the mermaiden, all under the waning moon, "Ho, ho, for the ship that sails at dawn and sinks ere afternoon. Ho, ho, for the blood of Ragnar's breast on his foeman's sword is wet. I laid my love on a mortal man, and I will have him yet." It was Sir Ragnar, the rover bold, clung to a floating spar, and drifted in with the turn o' the tide across the harbour bar. Oh, his look was shent, and his helm was bent, and his mail was riven and brast, and the stream that was so clear before ran red where'er he passed. Red his blood ran down the flood, and wavering, drowned and dim, like the face of death from the dark beneath, the cold moon stared at him. Into the hall Sir Ragnar went. God wot, his face was pale. The spray was on his dinted helm, the red blood on his mail. Turn around, thou beauteous bride, turn round and look on me. Say, wilt thou wed a living man, or a dead man out of the sea?" She took him in her lily-white arms, she kissed him on the brow. "I loved thee well for 7 long years, and well I love thee now." It was Sir Ragnar laid him down, dead, at the maiden's feet. She wrapped him in her bridal veil, all for a winding sheet. Up and spake the shaven priest, "Woe worth the Paynim foal. Ye may not lay him in holy ground, nor sing for his sinful soul. Cast out his course to sink or swim with the toss o' the turning tide. Let it ne'er be said that Christian maid would be a rover's bride." Up and spake the mermaiden, "Ho, ho, for his pallid lips. Ho, for the merry fish that swim among the sunken ships. Ho, ho, for see where he comes to, a-floating down so fast. I laid my love on a mortal man, and he is mine at last." End of the ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
Ballad of All Souls' Eve by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Benjamin Tucker. Between the shrouded fen and the desolate dunes of sand, where the fretting seas gnash white, there lies a lonely land. No heights about it couch their grim flanks seamed with scars, but it hath the wider heaven, and the sky more full of stars. Like the verge of the ultimate seas are its long horizon lines. Like the moan of morning waves, the song of its somber pines. The minstrels out on the moor, while far and faint in the wind, ring the bells of All Souls' Eve in the town he has left behind. Beneath the somber pine he has laid him down to sleep, with his heart beside his head and night grows dark and deep. Softly the wind came sighing, and as it sighed he heard in the harp a voice that moaned and mourned on a woeful word. "Low is it not?" said the voice in the sobbing strings that sighed. With the wind it wailed and rose, with the wind it sank and died. Spellbound he, Herluin, lay and watched like one in a dream. The moonbeams quiver and dance, and the long reeds sway in the stream. Till again an icy breath the wind came whispering, and stirred his stiffened hair, and sighed from string to string, and sobbed into speech. "Is it not?" the low voice singing said. "Is it not to thee at all that dust of uncounted dead is mixed in this lean grey soil, that on this moorland lone the hosts of mighty men lie scattered bone from bone? Go search the monkish records, and scarce shall be descried through the dust on an ancient page the tale of us who died. Ho, morn of shrieks and slaughter, when my Danes and I came down, driving our foes like flocks, and sacked the trembling town. When I struck to my battle song, and the swords rang round my head, that I heard not mine own voice, and knew not that I bled. Woe worth the brand that broke, woe worth the blinding blow, woe worth the day when I felt my lifeblood flow. I felt my lifeblood flow, I felt my strength and my wit, my heart and my hope and my valor flow, drop by drop with it. Under these pines I fell, and under these pines I woke, and I saw their stems as a fire, their boughs as a brooding smoke. Woe, woe! For the fight was over, and all around was peace, save for a moan on the moor, and a long sigh in the trees, and a voice that came and went, and wailed in its wandering. Deep in my mazed mind I knew 'twas an evil thing. Oh, for the age that I heard, dying alone in the dark, that baleful voice, and watched the green and glimmering spark, the eye of the prowling wolf, draw near and near and near. Thou of the stone-built dwelling, what dost thou know of fear? Suddenly the wind dropped, the voice died into the night, as the ripples died on the river, and in the wan moonlight. Still grew the wavering rushes, and still the trembling strings. Spellbound lay Herluin, who gazed on all these things, and knew not that he saw, while o'er the moorland's rim, lucent and wan and lone, the cold moon stared at him. Long, long it seemed till the wind, a frozen fleeting breath, wailed back from far away, "What dost thou know of death?" Murmured the voice, "Give heed, list to the dark, O day! Hot heart, hear thou the dust, for as in fear I lay, cursing my limbs of lead, death's icy hand took hold of my heart, the stars went out. Thus my tale was told. I stood a naked soul, 'tis strange and still I trow, when the heart has ceased to beat, and the blood has ceased to flow. Aye, strange to the shuddering soul, when the heart has ceased to beat, and it sees the wan corse lie, unheeding at its feet. I hear a rush in the firs, a rush of hastening horse, like the forelocks of fiery steeds, the branches waver and toss. See where Odin's war maids to choose the dead draw nigh. They come with the shout o'er the storm, along the scurrying sky. See where their lucent spears, like shafts of wan moonlight, pierce from the heart of the heavens, lay bare the heart of night. See where Bifrost Bridge arches from cloud to cloud, built of the gleaming rainbow. See the exulting crowd of the heroes that shouting cross to feast in high Valhall, where the maids pour the Aesir mead to glad their souls withal. And I I strained and strove, and the voice grew shrill and thin, like to the shuddering harp was the soul of Herluin. But the maids were drifting clouds, and the bridge that spanned the skies was the glint of the mocking moon on the tears that filled mine eyes. Dead they are dead, the gods in whom we have put our trust, the hopes of heroes' hearts, our ashes and dross and dust. We have seen our flesh, the sport of the crows, and the creeping things. We've seen the moss and the lichen grow over the bones of kings. The furs from us have fed, their writhen bowels and thin. Our burning blood springs up in the cold green sap o'er the wind. A whirl of withered leaves in the desolate land of death. Such are our haughty hosts, and our foes are wind and breath. I found in thy harp a voice, and after uncounted years, as a man to a man I spoke, and thou couldst not close thine ears. Yea, now thine ears are opened, for I saw thy soul afire, a flame in the wastes of the night, the depth of my vain desire. As a moth to the torch's flame, as to the moon the tide, drawn by thy tameless spirit, drawn by thy passion and pride, storming the gates of sense, as the cry of the chords outbroke. Out of the deep I called, and unto the deep I spoke. Darkness dissolved, the earth stole back to sight and shrill. A cock crew far away, like tears the dew lay chill. And Herluin raised his head and saw the pallid gleam stand in the face of east above the shimmering stream, while o'er him as he lay, half mazed in a magic sweven, the black pine branches hovered, like torn clouds hung in heaven. Day stood upon the moor, and the wailing voice withdrawn sighed o'er the sobbing harp strings, and died in the wind of dawn. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
The Bride's Bracelet by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. The king went forth at dawning to watch the turn of the tide. Be still, my soul, be still, today shall bring the bride. Seagull, O seagull, stay thy shifting wings. Hast seen the ship a-sailing, my love that brings? The ship with sails of scarlet, where threads of gold entwine, with maids and merry minstrels and gifts of mine. A veil for her head, and a girdle, and a bracelet all of gold, wrought by a cunning craftsman with labours manifold. The king went forth at even to watch the sober web, woven by wavering moonbeams over the tide at ebb. O nights are short in summer, she will come to me soon, tomorrow at dawn of day or at height of noon. O the sea grew hoary and grey at the turn of the year, the fire of the wind was faded, the heather was brown and sere. All the air was filled with the moan of the morning main, and the ship with sails of scarlet came not home again. The king went forth in the night, for care he could not sleep, down the perilous pathway, down to the edge of the deep. There was never a star to shine, nor sea from shore he wist, till he felt around his feet the chill of the foam that hissed. There was never a star in the skies, and the face of the deep was dim, yet he saw a wavering wanness, like the cold moon sink and swim. Yea, as in the heart of the billow quivers the wan sea flame, drifting in the darkness their mermaiden came, and on the long sea swell like to a foam wreath pale, among her locks a-floating he saw a costly veil, that a queen might wear to wed in, and on her arm so cold he saw a gallant bracelet all of the gleaming gold, wrought by a cunning craftsman with labours manifold. Then the eyes of the king were darkened, and his shuddering soul went down like a stone in the dark of the deeps, where shipwrecked sailors drown. The mermaid shimmering sank like a moon that clouds eclipse, and the spray of the salt sea mingled with the salt tears on his lips. The king goes forth at even by the seaside. He hears in the long dark caverns the sobbing of the tide. Pale is the face of the king, like one in a deadly swoon. Wan o'er the waste of waters glimmers the waning moon. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
The Wolf of Ironwood by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Carrie Adams, your book voice. The Wolf of Ironwood. Ho, for the white of the withered bough, and the red of the wrinkled leaf! Sir Arngrim sits in Ironwood, and his heart is filled with grief. The sun sinks down on Ironwood, blood red behind the trees. Sir Arngrim stares upon the sword that lies across his knees. O my father died of death of blood, and my mother of wasting woe, and their spirits dwell in the rocky fell, where the trees of Ironwood grow. And still the guilt of the life-blood spilt doth unavenged remain, and in the red of the wrinkled leaf I read my father's pain. O the kings were three sailed o'er the sea to work us havoc and harm, and I see in the white of the wizened bough my mother's beckoning arm. Sir Arngrim stood with the sea beneath and the rocky fell behind, and there he saw three gallant ships that sailed before the wind. O red of hand they come to land with a host and a mighty horde, and how shall I wreak my father's death with the power of a single sword? When the writhen shadows in Ironwood grew long and the fading rim of the sun sank low behind the fell, the witch-wife came to him. Now hearken to me, thou goodly knight, and if thou grant me grace, I'll work a spell shall serve thee well, for love of thy fair young face. O a maid am I from dawn till dusk, but by night of a magic ruin, and a weird of woe, a wolf I go, O nights beneath the moon. Thou shalt slay three hosts in Ironwood, that the wolf her fill may feed. Then, as lover true, when the fight is done, shalt pay the maiden's meed. Sir Arngrim looked upon the witch, and her face was fair to see. He's plighted her troth on his knightly oath, and sealed it with kisses three. It was the first of the host came on with the rush of a roaring gale, but they might not stir the single sword that bit through bone and mail. O half of the host at eve were slain, and half of the host were fled, and all night long in Ironwood the wolf howled o'er the dead. It was the second host came on, as levin leaps from the sky, but they might not quell the witch's spell and the sword of Gramarye. O half of the host at eve were fled, and half in their blood lay still, and all night long in Ironwood the wolf did feed her fill. It was the third o' the host came on like the waves of a winter sea, but they broke on the sword as billows break where the hidden skerries be. O half o' the host at eve were slain, and half were fled away, and like the dead among the dead, in a swoon Sir Arngrim lay. The moon shone down on Ironwood, above the trees so tall, and lo, the red and wrinkled leaves upon his face did fall, and lo, the shade of the withered bough across his face lay dim, and the wolf she leaped and seized and tore the warrior limb from limb. Ho, ho, for the red of the wrinkled leaf! His spirit has gone to dwell with the grimly ghosts of the ancient hosts that haunt the rocky fell. Ho, ho, for the white of the withered bough, the witch she wails full sore, and Ironwood, for that deed of blood, is accursed evermore. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain.
Ballad of Midsummer Eve by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier. Read for LibriVox.org by Alan Mapstone. The throstle he roused him at fall of eve, and said to the owlet grey, Lo, brother, look through the dusky wood, and tell who comes this way. The owlet stirred on the swaying bough of the slender birchen tree, and seest thou not the minstrel wights a-roaming along the lea? And what of the voice that comes with him, the voice that sighs and sings? Oh, that's the sound of the harp he bears, as the wind blows o'er the strings. And is it for love of a fair young maid that his cheek is pale and wan? Ay, a maid I wis, but never a kiss will she lay on the lips of man. He must sit all day at the alehouse door, amid the talk of the town, with a merry stave for knight and knave, and a jest for the staring clown. But when bells are rung and songs are sung, and all men lie and sleep, the merry minstrel forth must fare, his secret tryst to keep. The merry minstrel forth must fare, all in the twilight dim, to woo the queen of fairyland that's cast a spell on him. Oh, her form's the form of the lily-white birch that sways to the breeze, and her breath is the scent of the thyme and the blowing furze and the honey that's stored in the heath. And her dark eye's beam is the wavering gleam on the water that's wan to see, when the evening star hangs faint and far above the birchen tree. And wouldst thou learn her secret lore, go read the magic rune that the writhen boughs of the thorn tree trace, O nights across the moon. And what's the guerdon he shall gain by grace of the fairy queen? Oh, a hope that's lost and a love that's crossed, and tears and toil and teen, and feet astray on the path of day, and a song that cannot be sung, for elfin music is wind and breath when the matin bell is rung. For the cock crows shrill, and the dew lies chill, and the faint stars die withdrawn, and elfin gold is withered leaves at the coming of the dawn. End of ballad. This recording is in the public domain. End of The Norse King's Bridal by Eleanor Mary Smith-Dampier.